Have you ever wanted to run a checkpoint in the middle of a zombie apocalypse and play God? Decide who lives, who gets quarantined, and who gets liquidated? No? Then Quarantine Zone might not be your jam. But if deciding someone's fate under pressure sounds like your kind of power trip, buckle up. This one's for you. Today, we are taking a look at Quarantine Zone, The Last Check by Brigada Games. This game makes Contraband Police and Papers, Please feel like a walk in the park. It's gritty, it's tense, and it has a surprising amount of depth. Now, I know some of you nerds are too busy pulling waifus or flexing your kill streaks to worry about details. So, for you, I made a special section. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the small details that you're probably concerned about. The game, Quarantine Zone, The Last Check. Its developer, Brigada Games. Now, the platform I played this on was on Steam, so PC Master Race, this game is for us. Sorry, Epic Store Warriors, you'll have to take a break from your coupon clipping and Fortnite skins for this one. I played this over an hour. Actually, I played it about 2 to 3 times. That's how good it was. Now, if I wanted to wrap this up in a single sentence, if Contraband Police and DayZ had a baby and left it to be raised by Papers, Please, this is what you would get. Would I wishlist this? 1000% yes. Alright, now that the peasantry and junior gamers, those more inclined to scroll off in search of TikTok dances have moved on, we can finally get to what elite gamers like yourself actually came for. My first impression and full review. Now, let me just make a note here. This is completely my opinion, which is usually infallibly correct. And also, I'm incredibly humble about this, right? I've always been fascinated by zombie apocalypse scenarios. Blame my childhood obsession with Night of the Living Dead, Shaun of the Dead, The Walking Dead, DayZ, Left 4 Dead, and basically anything with infected brain eaters. Checkpoint, and you've got a game that feeds both my survival instincts and my God complex. I spotted this game on TikTok, saw some people playing it, and instantly searched for it on Steam. When I saw the demo was available, I instantly installed it, and the game hits all the right notes. Zombies, moral dilemmas, resource management, and tension. Alright, so let's talk about the visuals, the UI, and the overall performance. They may not be the heart and soul of the game, but they're the backbone of your quality of life and the reason you stay locked in for hours. Or tap out early. Now let's take a look at the visuals. Now first off, I want to say that the camp itself looked amazing. This helped with the immersion, but what stood out were the character models. They're pretty basic. Think default Unity assets. But the symptoms of infection, that's where the visuals really shine. You'll spot eye discoloration, scars, bruises, bite marks, and blood. It's visceral in a good way. Now, I do have some critiques here. There were symptoms that consistently didn't show up or stand out, and this bugged me. This was the eye pus and nose pus. I played the demo 4 separate times and not once did these show up visually. Instead, I'd get a notification on the next in-game day saying that there was an incident in the survivor quarters because I accidentally let an infected through. I'd go back, review the footage frame by frame, and see nothing. This was super frustrating. Now, in terms of the UI, it was functional, but minimal. Kind of like my Let's Plays. You've got the essentials, day count, money earned, that kind of thing. But beyond that, there wasn't much. Now, the tool key bindings do exist, but they're not clearly displayed anywhere on screen. The game tells you the hotkeys once, and then it's on you to remember them. Definitely an area that could use some refinement. Now, in terms of performance, the game ran very smoothly. There were no hiccups, and loading between days was actually pretty smooth. This was great. My only critique was the visual inconsistency. This was really my only issue in that department. Alright, so let's talk about our introduction into the game Quarantine Zone, The Last Check. Now, in terms of the intro, it's a pretty standard fare. You're a helicopter that flies over a ravaged city, there's ominous radio chatter in the background, and you're assigned to Checkpoint Alpha. Your mission? separate the clean from the infected, and make the hard calls. What I really like, though, is that once boots hit the ground, you're free to explore the camp. No rushing, no glowing arrows barking orders at you. It's just you, your station, and a whole lot of unknowns. The setup actually feels like you're in the middle of a crumbling world. There's refugees shuffling through metal detectors, there's guards that are posted up around you in hazmat suits, and the place has this weight to it. Like it's one breach away from chaos. When you finally arrive, you're inside your tent, but once I stepped out and started exploring, it was clear that this was a lived-in place. There was garbage tucked into corners, barrels stacked nearby, there were concrete barricades, chain link fences that divided different sections of the camp. It felt gritty, functional, and believable. Now, I know this is going to sound funny, but there was this one hazmat guy. He just posted up in the warehouse section wearing a bright blue suit and casually sitting on a crate. Like we weren't in the middle of an existential flesh-eating crisis. It completely broke the mood, but in a funny, almost relatable way. Just a little moment that made me chuckle. Alright, let's talk about gameplay. First up to bat are the tools and mechanics. Now, you start off with just a scanner, but over time you unlock more advanced tools like a combo thermometer and a pulse reader. You also get a UV light with this scanner for closer inspections. Now, pro tip, crouching becomes essential for checking legs, especially for things like bruising or bite marks. Now, I have two gripes here. First, the UV light. It's practically useless on people. It works great on luggage. It makes things glow green so you know what's tainted. But when it comes to human inspections, nada. Especially when I was actively trying to find the more elusive symptoms like aforementioned eye pus and also nose pus. Second, the scanner itself on my second run, I noticed that the reticule would flicker or flash subtly when scanning certain areas. The game never really explains what that means, but if I had to guess, it's trying to signal that there's something in that area. Maybe a prompt to use the UV light. The problem is, even when I followed that hint, still saw nothing. So either I missed the cue entirely, or the system needs refining. Either way, it left me second guessing the tools, which breaks the immersion a bit. Now, the next part is the inspection itself. I gotta say, one of the biggest headaches for me was telling necrosis from bruising. You think necrosis would scream zombie flesh, but honestly, it looks more like a gnarly bruise half the time. Dark patches, a hint of green maybe, but not nearly as decayed as you expect. Now, the in-game has a reference photo. It's super helpful, but the refugees rolling up to my checkpoint rarely looked like that clear cut. Because I started second-guessing my tools, I defaulted to playing it safe and tossed almost everyone into quarantine. Now, quarantine space is limited. I think you can upgrade it, but I didn't see any option during the demo. And here's where it gets tricky. The game rewards you for two things: letting healthy people into the survivor quarters and liquidating confirmed infected. But if you misjudge and just stack up the maybes in your quarantine, you're setting yourself up for a disaster. Why? Because if just one of them is infected, they'll turn and kill the rest overnight. I had a couple of runs where I sent 2 or 3 folks into quarantine, came back the next day, and boom, one turned and wiped the group. Net loss. And I need that cash, man. Humanity isn't going to save itself on good intentions and bad guesses. Now, for the one piece that was an unexpected surprise: base management. You're not just a glorified TSA agent with a heartbeat sensor, you're also in charge of managing resources and building up your base. We're talking medical tents, dining areas, defense towers, generators, the whole survival infrastructure. You fuel your generators, deliver food, treat the wounded, and try to keep your evac center from turning into a death camp. How do you do all that? Well, with the sweet, sweet money you earn from doing your job, right? This is just one of the ways your inspection decisions matter. That money doesn't just buy supplies, it funds upgrades. Bigger living quarters, more generators, stronger defense, and since both your base and the evacuation system have limited space, I imagine housing and infrastructure will play a huge role in the full release, especially when it comes time to choose who gets on the next outbound truck and who's stuck waiting. Now, this wouldn't be a zombie game without the zombies, right? So there is actually a defense mechanic that is included into the game. Now, this is another way for you to spend that hard-earned cash. It's by upgrading your base and the murder drone that you have assigned to yourself. At key moments, your base gets attacked, and the game switches gears from infection inspection simulator to that one mission in Call of Duty Modern Warfare where you're lighting things up from your C-130. Only this time, you're in control of a drone, and not just any drone. This thing starts with a basic minigun, but can be upgraded with a small cannon, and what I can only describe as a 105mm gun because the area effect is absurd. Honestly, I want to know how big this drone is, because it feels like something you'd buy from Radio Shack. Yes, that's a dated reference. My younger viewers, you're going to have to go and Google what Radio Shack is. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. The defense segment breaks up into the gameplay loop in the best way. You're not just stuck scanning armpits for bite marks. You're raining hot drone justice from above. Upgrades include mine launches, bomb drops, and even airstrikes. If I had any doubts this wasn't taking place in the United States, this drone absolutely kills those doubts. Pun intended. Later during evacuation days, the pressure ramps up again. You're forced to decide who gets on the trucks. Space is limited, and then it's back to drone duty. You take to the skies like a nervous helicopter parent watching the kids ride on a bike for the first time. Except your kid is a convoy full of uninfected civilians, and your job is to keep them from getting shredded by the undead. Now, in terms of balance, the demo itself is fun, don't get me wrong. But with full access to all of the drone upgrades, this can feel a bit too easy. Take the first wall defense you're introduced to. You're positioned behind the barricade. There's no soldiers manning the parapets. It's just you and your trusty drone. You brace for impact thinking you're about to get overrun, and then the drone just wipes the floor with the undead. It almost feels unfair, but hey, zombie scum, gotta go. Now, it was the same deal with the evac defense. There wasn't a real sense of threat. I just found myself letting the horde mob the convoy just so I could toy with the stragglers. It was fun, but it lacked urgency. I'm really hoping the full release cranks up the tension and forces more snap decisions, because right now the balance feels pretty one-sided. That might be intentional for the demo, but as it stands, there's little danger in a situation that should feel dire. Now, back to the tutorial. The tutorial does a decent job introducing you to new tools without overwhelming the player. It's straightforward and helpful, and keeps the pace moving. But it falls short when it comes to why or how those tools actually work. Like I mentioned earlier, the scan's flickering reticule, there's no explanation. It's just vibes. And the UV light, it's hyped up as a crucial detection method, but in practice, it felt more like a fancy flashlight with commitment issues. There's guidance, sure, but not enough depth to make the tools feel reliable. Alright, so with all of this said, let's talk about the vibes, right? Now, in terms of writing, it's sparse overall. But one ominous line did stick with me.
Alright, get ready. You're dropping in 20. And Commander, watch your step out there. It's not just the dead you gotta worry about.
Now, this hints to a deeper story or a darker twist down the line. Or maybe, hear me out, the pilot wasn't being deep at all. Maybe he was just warning me about the tools, because let's be honest, the scanner and UV light caused more panic than the infected ever did. Now, in terms of music, the game starts with a decent Sith techno track on the menu. Then immediately drops you into an oppressive silence. No ambient soundtrack, no musical cues, just the low hum of impending societal collapse. All you've got to keep you company is the noise in your own head and the grim satisfaction of doing your job with tools that barely work. An absurdly powerful drone that could probably win a war on its own. And you, the overworked, underinformed border agent, now playing God with a clipboard and a UV light that may or may not be imaginary. Now, in terms of immersion, this is where it kind of shines, okay? Now hear me out. The sound design pulls no punches. It's not just ambient, it's atmospheric pressure. You hear distant gunfire in the background. It's a reminder that death is always just outside the fence. The wind howls across the concrete and tarp like the ghosts of those who didn't make it. Soldiers shout orders, refugees mutter prayers or maybe curses, and when one of them mumbles, "Commander," as you brush past, it hits differently. You're not just walking through a camp, you're walking through humanity's last gasping breaths. There's no soundtrack to hold your hand here. No music to soften the edges, just silence, raw, uncomfortable silence. You hear your breath, your tools clicking, and the creak of boots on gravel. That silence, it's where the real horror lives. You're left alone with your thoughts. Thoughts like, did I just sentence an innocent person to death because of a misread of symptoms? Thoughts like, what if I miss one and the whole camp burns down because of me? And then there's the voice acting. This is a critique here. The actors try, but the timing, woefully off. There's a line, for instance, "Why are you closing the doors?"
Wait, why are they closing the door?
You are in a quarantine zone. Stay calm and wait.
This was meant to land like a gut punch, but it triggers before the character even walks into the room. It turns what could have been a haunting human moment into a clunky stumble. It's like watching someone trip during a eulogy. The delivery's there, but the soul of the moment is DOA. Now, what really kills the immersion, though, is the lack of fear. The lines should be buzzing with anxiety. Refugees should be pleading, arguing, panicking. They should shout at each other, question your authority, stare at you with wide eyes like you're a god playing favorites in a divine lottery. But instead, they stand in line with the emotional urgency of people waiting for a bus. It's absolutely hell. And imagine this. Evacuation days with a clock ticking down, a literal countdown. A horde on the horizon. No music, just alarms. Refugees screaming. Soldiers yelling to load the trucks. Your heart hammering as you try to make split-second decisions. Do I send this guy to the convoy or quarantine? Do I let this woman with suspicious eyes on board or risk losing space for someone healthy? Every wrong choice costs lives, money, and maybe the entire camp. If the devs leading into this, if they double down on the dread and raise the emotional stakes, they won't just have a good game, they'll have a memorable one. Alright, so now the technical performance. The technical performance and setting. There were no frame drops to report, solid performance overall. The only reoccurring issue was when I closed the game, Steam would still think it was running, forcing me to Control-Alt-Delete and manually kill the process. It's not a deal breaker, but it does get old fast. Now, in terms of jank, most of it lives in the tools and timing and dialogue. The game settings are what you'd expect: subtitles, graphic sliders, volume controls, nothing fancy, just functional. And again, my biggest technical gripe is still the UV light detection. I know you're probably tired of me talking about this, but I have to say, if you're going to sell this idea that this tool is going to help you find hidden symptoms, it should be consistent in doing that. There were moments if I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be identifying necrosis or just realizing I hadn't cleaned my monitor. Symptoms need to pop more. If you're going to make me play medical detective, at least give me a proper visual clue to work with. Now, on the bright side, controller support is baked in, and it works especially well with the Xbox controller. That's a solid win for those who prefer to play on the couch rather than hunched over a keyboard like a cryptid. So, what stood out? Was there any meme-worthy moments? Oh, absolutely. This wouldn't be a Let's Play for me if there wasn't any meme-worthy moments. Now, some of the NPCs look like they crawled out of a crypt. They have gray skin, their eyes are bloodshot or yellow, they have terrible coughs and they sneeze, and the occasional hiccup, which I thought was kind of odd. I know there's an explanation there, but it was just an odd symptom. And then they ask, "Why are you quarantining me?" Sir, or madam, do you not own a mirror? Now, that was meme-worthy for sure, but here are some highlights. Okay, so where do I begin? Now, my first playthrough ended in a spectacular fashion, and I want you to picture this. At the start of the day, I was informed of a new form of symptom, aggression. Okay? And then they issue a pistol to defend yourself. Now, in walk the refugees. I signal for the next one, and I've just flagged this poor soul for liquidation. Suddenly, I start catching hands from this refugee.
I feel fine. Please.
The refugee
don't do
goes
this.
full WWE on me. I panic and I reach for my defensive sidearm, but here's the problem. And I can't for the life of me remember the hotkey. I'm smashing buttons like I'm trying to input a Mortal Kombat fatality. Nothing. I'm just spinning in place while getting absolutely bodied. Thank the game design gods. The guards weren't just there to cosplay. They stepped in and handled the threat like pros while I stood there looking like a confused mall cop. But it doesn't end there. Second run, new day, same chaos. This time, I discover, completely by accident, that you can scroll through your tools with the mouse wheel. I don't know if the game told me this and I just ignored it, or if it's a secret handed down by the devs like Forbidden Scrolls. Either way, I feel powerfully enlightened. So I confidently roll up to the refugee, tools at the ready. I think I've selected the thermometer pulse combo, but oh no. I've got the pistol, and I pop them instantly. 1 second I'm about to take their vitals, the next I've accidentally committed a war crime. Just absolutely dusted a civilian with all the intensity of Uncle Jimbo moment. It's coming right for us!
My God, it's coming right for us!
The worst part, it was my fault. The best part, I absolutely deserved that restart. Alright, Nerd Nation, let's bring this home. Quarantine Zone The Last Check isn't just a pretty good demo. It's a sleeper hit in the making. This game nails atmosphere, moral tension, and that sweet spot between chaotic surprise and tactical satisfaction. From scanning refugees to fending off the undead with a drone that may or may not have been from Radio Shack, it's a wild ride. Sure, there's room for polish, better visual cues, tighter dialogue timing, more clarity on tool functionality, but none of that stopped me from diving back in multiple times, and each time I found something new. If you've ever enjoyed Papers, Please and Contraband Police, this needs to be on your radar. Now, before I finish up this, I want to go ahead and talk about something. If you would allow me to get on a soapbox. Now, the version I was currently playing is 0.8. And at the end of the session, the game sent me directly to a Google form with a survey. And honestly, that's something more devs should be doing. Not just bug reports, but actually taking the pulse of the community. The gaming community now is leaning more and more on indie developers, not just for new mechanics and better storytelling, but for actual communication and customer care. AAA studios, you might want to start taking notes. Antagonizing your player base isn't innovation, it's just bad business. Okay, rant over. Now, with this game, I want you to wishlist it, I want you to play it, and I want you to break it. Then do the devs a favor, fill out that Google form at the end of the demo. You're not just giving feedback, you're helping shape something awesome. Now, if you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you. If you had a good time, hit the like button. If you want more reviews, live streams, and the sweet, twisted videos with a narrative flair, slap that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing. And hey, come hang out with me on stream. I'm live Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights starting at 9 p.m. Central. I stream till about 11, or later if the vibes are strong and the chaos is flowing. Let me know in the comments, should I stream this game when it launches? Do you want a full series? I've got the scanner ready and a drone with questionable clearance. Just say the word. And as always, Nerd Nation, take care of yourself and each other. Nerd out.